Can you describe the difference between an adjunct and a tenured professor?
I think so.
No.
I know a tenured professor is like they have strong job security, so they can't really get fired or something. But honestly, I don't really know the discrepancy between
Professors? I don't know anything. I'm a freshman.
Adjunct professor? I don't. What's the difference?
You're probably familiar with the life of a typical college student, having to juggle school, work, and social obligations while trying to stay sane. At the same time, there's an unchanging element to the university, an aspect of college life that seems so certain and stable, it's often taken for granted. This is professorship. How much do you know about the person at the front of your lecture hall? What's their work like? How do you think they feel about their job? And what exactly does that job entail? Broadly speaking, we can divide professorship into two separate categories: tenured and adjunct. What exactly is an adjunct professor?
Really, the one term that categorizes them all is non-tenure track, NTT, as opposed to tenure track. So that's the major distinction, and also that distinction is just two tiers. At community colleges, though, it's much more straightforward. There's the part-time professors, or adjuncts, or contingent, whatever term you want, and then there are the full-time professors.
The differences between the way the lecturers or non-tenure track faculty and the tenure track or tenured faculty are treated are huge. I'm an outsider in my own department. I'm not really always included in discussions about undergraduate education. Decisions get made about my classes that are beyond my control. I find out about later. Our department has these weekly meetings we call course group. They're kind of like faculty and graduate student meetings every Wednesday at lunchtime, and I can attend some of those, but then when it comes to faculty-only meetings, I'm not allowed to attend. I'm not considered to be faculty by my department.
NTT, non-tenure track. These are staff members, contingent faculty, and adjuncts who are contracted for a particular set of teaching obligations over a given period. This period can range anywhere from a year, a semester, or a multi-year term. But when that term is completed, the staff member's contract must be renewed. NTT encompasses a wide variety of staff positions, and it's important to note that their work at the university is not temporary. Rather, it's work that continues through an indefinite process of contractual renewal. Tenured professors, on the other hand, have a job for life, as well as salaried pay, benefits, and research opportunities. Whereas adjunct professors are essentially contract employees in an academic setting, a staff member who has been awarded tenure will enjoy job security for the duration of their professorship. And significantly, the tenured professor will remain employed at a single institution.
And that's uncommon for adjuncts. Most adjuncts are what we call, jokingly, freeway flyers. They fly from one campus to the next, and I did that too for years. But my wife convinced me to stop doing it, and so of course that meant we have less income, but we just adjusted our lifestyle to suit the income so that I would not be constantly on the freeway. The last time I was doing it, for instance, and this is not uncommon for adjuncts, I taught here, say, a morning class, 9 o'clock or something like that, and then I would teach at City College, maybe around noon or 1 o'clock. And then at like 5 o'clock, I would teach at Southwestern College in Chula Vista. So my day would be start at one campus and then go to the other campus and then go all the way down to Chula Vista during 8:05 South rush hour every day.
For many adjuncts across the U.S., and especially those in California, this is what an average day of work looks like. Preparing for class in the morning, moving to another campus by the afternoon, and quite often still teaching when the sun sets. On top of this, Most adjunct professors have to deal with many other inequalities that don't concern tenure-track professors, even when working the same hours, teaching the same subjects, and possessing the same level of education.
Working conditions, though. You see the conditions they're in. This is a shared office space. There's 70 adjuncts for the English department, and this is shared by not only those adjuncts, but also adjuncts from other departments.
These 2 rooms?
Yeah, these 2 rooms. This is a conference room, and then that room with the cubicles and the antiquated computers.
You know, we do have to make a living, though. I mean, this is the problem. Like, I get, for one course, at UCSD, at the level that I'm at, after having worked here for 8 years and received a number of pay increases and that sort of thing, I still only get about $1,200 a month to teach one class with a PhD.
Okay, so that's the pay. Another factor is in terms of benefits. The vast majority of adjuncts, 75% of the faculty in the community college system and nationwide in higher education in general, don't have health care. No health care. No health care. No health care, but also other things like the accrual of sick days and other things like that.
I think it's good for students to understand that there are these different types of faculty at their universities, and to understand that the person standing in front of the classroom could be on food stamps. That's just 25% of contingent faculty are on food stamps, or on public assistance of some sort.
According to the Association of Governing Boards of Universities and Colleges, non-tenure track staff make up approximately 75% of the instructional faculty among colleges and universities nationwide. How exactly did this come to be? Up until the late 1970s, California's community college system was incredibly localized. The students were from adjoining neighborhoods, funding was derived from local sources, and officers were elected from the community board. During this period, full-time NTT faculty constituted, as a national average, 10% of total instructional staff, and part-time faculty about 25%. The adjunct professor was regarded as a professional outsider, a person whose career intersected with academia only as a part-time instructor.
The adjunct means essential, non-essential. So, in a sense, the whole idea behind having an adjunct is, say, for instance, for a law school somewhere, they want to get a lawyer who is a practicing lawyer to come and teach a special law in his specialty legal practices, to teach a special class on law one semester. So that is appropriate use of the adjunct position.
I mean, there's like the stereotype of adjunct faculty, right? And there are certainly those faculty here at UCSD. A lot of them are in the sciences or in business at the business school, and they're professionals in their field. So they have like a job out in the world, and then they teach a class to impart their expertise on the students at the university. So they don't really teach because they need to. They teach because they can, and because it's something they enjoy doing.
This was common practice up until the 1970s. In '78, in an attempt to increase accountability and to control for quality among the state's educators, California passed Proposition 13. Community college funding was no longer acquired locally. Instead, the system became statewide, blurring the line between local districts and transferring authority from district leadership to state officials. The immediate effects were negative. Administrators, faculty, and staff were laid off, classes were cut, and support budgets minimized. By 1984, state officials were scrambling to once again restructure California's community college system. In 1988, the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges, along with the Community College League of California, proposed a piece of legislation called AB 1725. This was passed with an overwhelming majority and signed into law that same year. AB 1725, the Community College Reform Act, was considered to be the most comprehensive policy and regulatory legislation ever adopted for community colleges. AB 1725 effectively created a loophole in hiring practices, where colleges could hire adjuncts as long as they kept their course load under 10 classes a year. Paradoxically, the intention of the bill seems to have been an attempt to reduce the number of part-time staff. However, limitations imposed on adjunct faculty did not deter community colleges from replacing retired tenured professors with a litany of adjuncts. Ultimately, this decreased the number of tenure hires and increased the non-tenure teaching positions, while actively preventing those on the NTT track from working in a single district.
I began to recognize that there was a problem with the system. But honestly, it took me a few years before I realized that what was actually happening. Because as a graduate student who is planning to go into higher education, no one ever tells you exactly what the system is going to be like. The situation then has been deteriorating since, I guess, the 1970s. And it's been a slow process and a number of factors. And I guess you could kind of sum it up by saying that every time a full-time professor retired, part-time professors were hired to replace teaching those classes. It saves the institution money, and it also allows the administration, the bad guys, not all cases, some administrators are good, but in general, it allows the kind of implementation of the business model.
The 2007 recession intensified the practices of running universities like businesses by trying to cut costs through adjunctification and churning.
The recession had a huge impact on university hiring, higher education hiring. A lot of the jobs that I applied for disappeared during the course of the academic year. So in the fall, there were all these ads that came out, and I applied to about 45 positions in the fall of 2008. And by the spring, the jobs didn't exist anymore. The practice of churning is basically getting rid of lecturers after a short period of time before they get to the point where they would have to get a continuing appointment or be considered for a continuing appointment. They don't want to do that because it involves making a commitment to you as a worker, as a member of the university community. And so what departments will often do is they'll hire people for shorter periods of time, and then they just won't rehire them. And the union calls this process churning. This is like churning people out of the system. And it's a huge problem here at UCSD in particular. Of all the UCs, UCSD and UCLA are the two worst campuses for churning.
Bearing that in mind, it's important to remember that both adjunct and tenured professors put a lot of effort into getting their degrees as well as teaching their students. Becoming a professor, regardless of your position, is a labor of love.
Yeah, in terms of, it's like I basically did all of that training and put all that effort into it, and went into a significant amount of debt. And I have what's basically a minimum wage job, So you gotta ask yourself, it's not really worth it, And of course I keep doing it for a number of reasons. I love it. I love teaching. I love students. But I also don't know what else to do.
This fear